Breaking news on a late Sunday night. 9-time Pro Bowler, former Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson planning to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He will sign a team-friendly one-year deal where the Denver Broncos will end up paying the $38 million of the salary.
Well, it's inevitable because I don't think that there's much separation between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I have no problem with Russell Wilson starting the season. You're giving a veteran, a Super Bowl champion, a 9-time Pro Bowler the nod to start off the season. And after all, he's the one you acquired in free agency, albeit for just $1.2 million, Shannon.
So after all the speculation about where Justin Fields was going to go after we find out the Bears did have intentions of drafting Caleb Williams, it was actually surprising how many teams did not go for this guy. I did not expect him to only be worth a 6th round pick. I'm not saying he's an elite QB or anything near that, but he definitely has potential, and he's so young that if properly developed, he can definitely become something, because he's shown glimpses of his talent, and the ceiling is just as good as anyone, and I think the Steelers are the perfect landing spot for him. They are a well-run organization that just puts winners on the field, and Pittsburgh already announced that Fields will start off as the backup to Russell Wilson, so they are basically going to treat him like a rookie and develop him the right way, and that is the scary thing to me as a Browns fan. I am so used to the Steelers dominating my team year in and year out, and just as I thought Cleveland was starting to make the turn, the Steelers make this move, and you know it's all going to pan out. I'm going to talk about everything the Steelers have done so far this offseason and what else they should do to put themselves in the best spot for the upcoming season. Before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 20k subscribers, and with your support, I believe we can get there super fast. Okay, so like I said, the Steelers trading for Justin Fields pretty much solidifies the Bears taking Caleb Williams, and for them, they are looking to finally capitalize on a first-round QB pick, with the previous ones not really panning out. As for the Steelers, they now have a pretty interesting QB room with both Russell Wilson and Fields. And the funny thing to me is that both of these guys are similar players with very similar tendencies. And I think it's the right decision to start Russell Wilson because of his experience and how Fields will be able to learn behind him. And this team is definitely starting to develop talented skill players around this new QB room, even with the departure of Diontae Johnson. Alright, so I'm going to talk about the QB room later, because obviously that's what everyone is most interested in, but I want to talk about the outlook of this offense as we start to approach training camp time. Because we all know they have one of the best defenses in the league, so just a little bit of offensive production could really put this team over the top. Last season, under Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada, the offense was just weird. Really, a better way to describe it was inconsistent. They ran the ball too often, with little production, sometimes they even struggled to get a first down, but when Canada was fired, the offense started to get going. But it still wasn't enough for people to feel confident in Pickett being the QB of the future. Offensive line was definitely an area of the offense that had a lot of questions coming into last season, and honestly, they weren't that good, but found their groove late in the season. And they were a big reason why Pittsburgh was winning so much late in the season. But overall, they were one of the worst ranked units in the league. It's honestly just crazy to me how much this team wins, because sometimes it doesn't even make sense statistically. I remember the famous clip of LeBron James when he called the Lakers the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were getting outscored, but still had a winning record. Ultimately, it just comes down to the winning culture that they have built. Guys expect to win and know how to, and that spreads throughout the locker room. For most teams, when you watch, you wonder how they are going to manage to screw something up. But for them, you just have that gut feeling they are going to find a way to pull through. With that being said, now I want to talk about the running game, because even with the acquisition of 2 QBs, running the ball is what AFC North football is built on, especially in the cold. And Najee Harris is another guy that fits the mold of struggling early last season, but breaking out towards the end of the year. He's not really an explosive guy, but he's huge and can wear down a defense throughout the game. He's sort of like a Derrick Henry type of player. I mean, his longest run ever is only 37 yards, but I still think he is the guy that can lead this team in the backfield, but not by himself. They need to have a good number 2 guy, which they do, in Jaylen Warren. Now to move on to the receiving unit, like I said earlier, they traded away Diontae Johnson to the Panthers for a late round pick. So basically, they were just getting rid of him. I don't think this was a bad move at all with the up-and-coming receivers they have down the roster. They got George Pickens, who I expect to break out into a Pro Bowl type of receiver, with him now being the guy to lead the receiving unit. So overall, I think the offense is going to be much improved, and it will be very interesting to see what QB ends up starting majority of the year, because even though Wilson is the starter, to me, Fields obviously has the most upside. And the ceiling for Wilson may be 10-7, whereas for Fields, who knows? He could break out now that he is playing under the right system. And if Wilson's ceiling is a first or second round playoff exit, why would you take that over the unknown of Fields? Even if the Steelers only win 7 games with him, I'd just rather take that risk. But again, like I already said, I think they are treating him like a rookie, and this year is about developing him into what they want him to be. Looking at the Steelers' schedule this year, it's going to be tough. The AFC North is one of the toughest, if not the toughest division in the league itself, and then they got to go through the AFC West, which of course consists of the Chiefs. But honestly, with what the Chargers have done this offseason, they aren't that scary at all anymore. So I think there are a lot of winnable games on their slate, and the Steelers always take care of business in games they should win on paper. Alright, now for the defense, this is the side the Steelers have always been built around for a long time. They always have a few guys who play mean and opposing offenses fear. Obviously right now that guy is TJ Watt, and it was unfortunate to see him go down with that injury before the playoffs, but he was a big part of their playoff push, and this year I expect him to have a repeat season. And for as happy as I was about Myles Garrett winning Defensive Player of the Year, he put up just as good of numbers. According to a few rankings I have seen, the Steelers ranked 7th last year on defense, which obviously is pretty good. They finished top 10 in most major categories, and they had to overcome a terrible offense that often set them up in bad spots. One guy to me that stood out was cornerback Joey Porter Jr., the rookie out of Penn State. I see a great future in him, and he was in the race for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's just so consistent, and even though he's not a big interception guy, he is all over opposing receivers. So in recap, the Steelers have had probably the best offseason so far in the entire NFL, but the decisions they made were pretty easy to make, and they still have the upcoming draft, and we all know that this team can draft pretty well. They turned Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph into Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for basically nothing, and they don't have to pay those guys much either, so they will have room to improve other parts of the roster, while teams like my Cleveland Browns have all their money tied up in Deshaun Watson, who honestly, to me, may be less reliable than Fields, but I'm hoping he can get back to Houston form soon. But anyways, are the Steelers gonna be a Super Bowl contender this year? Probably not, but they have all the pieces in place to have a really good season, and I can almost guarantee that they will make the playoffs. And if healthy, to me, anything can happen, and they can even go the route of playing both QBs they have to confuse defenses. And with Matt Canada gone, we saw how much the offense opened up, and that was with Kenny Pickett under center, so I can't imagine what this year can be. I think they're going to let things loose, and the young receivers are going to have so much opportunity. That's really all I have to say for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, because your support truly does mean the world. And let me know what you would like to see next, with the offseason now under full swing. But until then, I will see you all later.